Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular City Commission meeting of Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. If I could start by calling the meeting to order, and if all of you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Roselle.
Present.
Commissioner Jenks.
Present.
Commissioner Olsman.
Present.
And Commissioner Elder is excused. We have a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There are copies of the agenda available at the back of the room as well as at the recorder's desk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Our county commissioner could not be with us this evening. And I don't see any other elected officials in the room, so we'll move to public participation. Now is the opportunity for the public to address the commission on anything that is not on the agenda.
Good evening. I'm Sherry A. Wells. I live in Ferndale, where occasionally I have been around, also known as Mrs. Ferndale, hence the vintage costume. But also because one of the things I do is a genealogy research for people. And I was doing this in Berkeley, and they only had one old city directory for me to look at. Since then, Mr. Tong has doubled their collection. He went to John King bookstores and found a 1924 one, which has my grandfather's business in it. And as I told them last night, my grandparents are still in Berkeley. They're buried along the fence line in the cemetery there. And my mother was born in Royal Oak Township because Berkeley hadn't been invented yet as a city. So I have in this finding aid that shows where all of the city directories for what was originally Royal Oak Township in 1833. And this map shows where each city cut its piece out of in what year. And so Huntington Woods, which in some of these city directories calls itself the City of Homeowners, 1936 directory, and I think maybe the 1926 as well. Shows that Huntington became a village in 1926, although it had been around for much longer than that, and a city in 1932. So this has the different city directories from 1922 to 1960, and then which library or historical museum has them in their possession so people can look at that. And I listed on the back every library and historical museum in our Royal Oak Township. And I am glad that Mr. Berry is here. I was very actively involved in the Ferndale Historical Society for a while, and one of the things we were delighted to have is have him come to talk to us about Ferndale housing, because you know he has every house in Huntington Woods already. And we started looking at our city a whole lot differently after his presentation. So it is my pleasure to see him again and to give him this for the historical records that Huntington Woods does possess.
Thank you.
Is there anything new going on historically that you'd like to brag about?
Not today, but we do have a meeting in February.
All right. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Claire Galed, 10084 LaSalle. I was not at the coffee on Sunday. I was out of town, but someone did call me and asked me to ask a question. So I can't give you any background to this. It's not a very difficult question, but that's why I'm here asking. Apparently it came up, the whole question of communications, and someone said they understood that there was a new communication committee that had been reinstituted, and they were wondering, and I would like to be able to take information back, when that committee would be up and running. And they're very eager to know when their meetings might be, because I think there's some seniors who would like to come and be part of that discussion.
Great.
So
Why don't I give you a call tomorrow? and
that would be
go over all that?
perfect.
Okay.
That would, I said I would ask, and that I was sure somebody would get back to me.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other public participation? Seeing none other, public participation is closed, and we'll move on to our public hearing. This is a matter of receiving public comment on the proposed 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan to guide future development of parks and recreation in Huntington Woods. You want to say a little bit about the plan, Amy? or-
Sure. This is a master plan for the parks and also the recreation department. It needs to be updated every 5 years. We do need to file it with the DNR in order to be eligible for grant opportunities through the DNR. We went through a process to gain public input, and that has been incorporated into the plan, and this is a final opportunity for residents to share input or comments on the draft plan.
Are there any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, the public hearing is closed, and we'll move on.
Excuse me, can the commission
Under-
make comments, or do I have to?
Under the first item of business, you may.
Can I just ask the time we opened and closed? Sorry, the public hearing.
7:36 and 7:37.
Okay, moving on to the regular items of business. Our first item is a matter of consideration of the approval of the 2020 to 2024 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Do we have a motion?
We'll move. Second.
All right. Any comments?
City manager had indicated to me that we need to complete and file the Parks and Recreation Master Plan 2020 to 2024 this month, and that must be done. She also indicated we can consider this as a work in progress and update it as we move forward. I support her suggestion because we really don't have another option, but I'd like to state publicly, and I'd like this also to be placed in the minutes. I believe the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is extremely weak in current 2020-2025 detail, which is what this plan covers, or it does 2020 to 2024. It has no detailed inventory of what's in the parks, isn't in many instances using the most current census data, hasn't footnoted the year of the American Community Survey data, and isn't, as presented, a good tool for the city when it goes to seek grants. The contractor indicates the importance of the recreation inventory at the beginning of the recreation inventory section, and states, developing a complete inventory of the parks and recreation facilities and programs is an essential component of a 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan, as it provides a base of information to use in developing the action plan. This is an exact quote from that. And yet, when you look at the plan itself and the various parks, we have 2 small paragraphs on 13 municipal parks and properties and on a mini park. And then on 7 pages, on one half of those, the parks are mentioned. There's general terms which says including benches, picnic tables, sandboxes, gardens, whatever. At the Summer Michigan Municipal League Convention in Detroit, Prina and Newhoff, landscape architects from the western part of the state, did a detailed presentation on developing a Parks and Recreation Asset Management Plan and how it could be used both to understand and anticipate expenditures as well as seek grant money. The Parks and Recreation, or the Recreation Department, even though it spends a lot of money, is always short of money. And if we had, I believe, a better master plan for the next 5 years, we could use that itself for getting more money. I'm extremely concerned about data in the report frequently compared 2000 to 2015, when 2020 and 2025 estimates are also available, and we're looking at a forward-looking plan covering 2020 to 2024. Current American Community Survey data covers 2014 to 2018, although it was released on December 19th, many of the tables. And data used in the report is very often 2017 or earlier. In July 2015, Ferndale received a Transportation Alternatives Program grant through MDOT and SEMCOG for Woodward Corridor Neighborhood Bicycle Network. It included Royal Oak, Oak Park, Huntington Woods, Ferndale, Pleasant Ridge, and Hazel Park. These bike routes that link adjacent cities are not shown in a SEMCOG 2014 bicycle and pedestrian plan detail on page 16. I pointed out to the contractor in early December that there was a more current set of data and different routes than what was shown in the map. According to the previous community survey and the updated January 2020 report, it looks like they only received or dealt with 6 additional responses during the period of December 11th to December 30. This report, although I will vote for it, needs an awful lot of work, and it looks like the only way we can use it if we go for grants is by going out and getting someone to do additional research. I realize that we will treat it as a work in progress and that we can update it, but I'm extremely disappointed with the quality. And I'd like this entered at better.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is a matter of support for the reinstatement of the state historic tax credit, Senate Bill 54 and House Bill 4100.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we approve the resolution this evening authorizing support for Senate Bill 54 and House Bill 4100.
Second.
Any public comment? Any comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is a matter of considering approval of the rock salt purchase agreement with the city of Berkeley, as well as the use of the Berkeley DPW facility.
This is a contract that we approve usually every 2 years because we have such a good working relationship. We're asking the commission to approve a 3-year agreement for the continued use of the dome for rock salt that we then purchase from the city of Berkeley.
So moved. Support. Any public comment? Commission comments? Questions?
Will this save us money? I don't mean in budgeting it separately, but it sounds like the 3-year contract is a win-win, because it's my understanding salt prices keep going up. And the second thing is I would hope that with the addition of the Berkeley School District, that we're in a bigger buying pool, and hopefully they won't go up as badly as they've been going up.
Yeah, the price is tied to an annual purchase price, so the price is not guaranteed for the next 3 years, but we get the same price as the Mitten bid, low bid. So we don't have to go through that process. We piggyback on Berkeley's work.
Where are we going to put a salt dome here?
No,
Nowhere.
on top of the building,
Right.
so it can reach down.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board and commission appointments. We have 3 committees that are mayoral appointments. So I'll start with that and ask the commission to approve my recommendations.
I move to confirm the mayoral appointments.
Let me state it for you first.
I'm trying to get out of here.
Easy.
It's been a long day.
Easy.
For planning commission, I would like to reappoint Michael Wright and appoint Blake Moore. The library advisory board, reappoint Steve Pollack. And for the historic district commission, reappoint Louise Wibbleman, Mark Fink, Robert Lebo, and Steve Behrman, with a new appointment of Kevin Withane. Now your turn.
I'll move to confirm the mayoral appointments as stated.
Second.
Any public comment? Commission, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now moving on to the commission appointments. Start with Commissioner Jenks.
For the Arts and Garden Board, we move to reappoint Jessica Blake and Deborah Hecht, and to add as new appointments Corey Starr, Beth Spencer, Marcy Bycat, and Richard Halpern.
Second.
What? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, for the,
Mayor Pro Tem moves out.
thank you. For the board of review, we'll be reappointing Robert Horowitz and Chuck Chandler.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Bolzmann.
For the Environmental Advisory Committee, I move that we support the appointment of Mari Cooper, Daniel Brooks, and those are the 2 I see.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Jenks.
I move that for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, we reappoint Kim Tarnopol, and that we make as a new appointment Jason Gordon.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mayor Pro Tem.
For the Zoning Board of Appeals, I move to reappoint David Sano, and then also move Ben Falick to a permanent member, Adam Wright to the first alternate, and James Park to the second alternate.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Senior Advisory Committee, I move that we reappoint Greg Jamerick, did I say it right? And that we appoint Iris Perengelli and Kay Grady.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
For the Ethics Committee, I move the reappointment of Ellen Cogan-Lipton and Andrew Franklin.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there no
Opposed?
appointment, new appointment?
There is one other appointment to the Planning Commission. We always have a revolving member from the Planning, or from the City Commission that serves a 1-year term on the Planning Commission. And this year it is Commissioner Jenks' opportunity to do that, so I would like to recommend a motion to appoint Commissioner Jenks to a 1-year term to the Planning.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I think we got everything. Item number 6 is the commission liaison to the boards and commissions and committees for 2020. I have a list that's been passed out for Art and Garden Board. We have Commissioner Elder, Environmental Advisory Board, Commissioner Jenks, Library Advisory Board, Mayor Paul, Parks and Recreation Commissioner Olsman. Planning Commission we talked about. Zoning Board of Appeals, Commissioner Elder. Our MML Legislative Coordinator, Mayor Pro Tem Rozelle. Historic District Commission, Mayor Paul. Senior Advisory Committee, Commissioner Olsman. Emergency Response Task Force, Michelle Elder. Communications Committee, Mayor Pro Tem Rozelle. And SEMCOG, Mayor Paul. Also need an alternate to SEMCOG, and I would recommend Commissioner Jeff Jenks.
Second.
I need a motion to start.
I'll move.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We just covered the SEMCOG appointment in that motion. So, is that okay?
Yes, it is.
We need an alternate to MML. Is that
No.
necessary?
All you need is someone to show up to vote at the summer meeting and in the spring. That's the only requirement. You don't have to appoint anyone you pick.
Okay. Item number 8 is a matter of consideration of an ordinance to amend the City of Huntington Woods Chapter 40 zoning, Article 9, sustainable design and environmental standards.
Yeah, this was an initiative that was suggested by a resident, that there was concern about pesticides and fertilizers. The suggestion was whether or not they could be banned in the community, and discussing it with the city attorney, we decided that we can't regulate usage on private property. However, we can make sure that when it is applied on private property, it's applied properly and does not leach into the sewer system. So she developed this ordinance that makes it a misdemeanor, civil infraction for misuse or mistreatment of fertilizers, pesticides, any entity that would get, or any formula that would get into the sewer system and potentially do damage to it. So this is a first reading of that ordinance that puts those restrictions in place.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move the first reading.
Support.
Is there any public comment? Seeing none, any comments or questions from the commission?
This came to me from a resident in the city, and it's worked its way through the city committee process and found its way here, and so just goes to show that residents have good ideas, bring them forward, and we're happy to consider them.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9 is another first reading. It's a matter of consideration of an ordinance to amend the City of Huntington Woods Codes of Ordinance regarding regulating the delivery of unsolicited written material to any premise without express invitation or permission, to provide penalties for violations thereof. You have a motion?
So what are we had to discuss it? So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Yes.
You want to start?
What are we improving here, Council?
What do you mean improving?
What are we changing?
What are we changing?
This is all new.
Okay, I said, what problem are we addressing?
We're delivering the people that go by and throw the papers on the driveway. That's what it's to govern.
Any paper?
Something that you don't have a subscription for. Okay, it's, I don't know how big of an issue it is here. It is an issue in a lot of communities I deal with, and I put ordinances together for them last year. Amy and I discussed it, and we figured it wouldn't hurt for you to have one as well. But, you know, you have certain papers that just go and they just randomly throw the papers out on your property.
Are you talking about like brochures or things like that?
All of it. All of that kind of stuff.
Stuff that comes in the pink plastic.
Yeah, that they
I don't know
pitch
what
out
the
on
heck
your
is
yard.
inside, but
So the bottom line is, if this is placed on the porch, attached to a front door,
Right.
between the front door and the screen, left with the occupant, it's fine.
Yes, but you just can't throw it in their
someone's
yard.
driveway or throw it on their front lawn.
Right.
So now who are delivering unsolicited items will have to walk up to your house and put it between the door?
I think it's highly unlikely they will do that, so.
Well, you're
I mean,
mandating that's what they do.
Right. But typically, they will not do that. So typically, it does stop the process.
I mean, a lot of times, the magazine for downtown Birmingham is hung on the front door handle or
Yeah.
left on the porch, and that's still legal.
Yes,
Phone book that's
Yes.
left on the porch is okay still. It just can't be tossed in your
Yeah,
driveway.
just-
Campaign material is legal.
It's still legal.
Yes,
As long as it's
yes.
placed in the proper
I
area.
mean, the point is that, you know, people don't want this stuff thrown all over their yard, and then it's their responsibility to go out and pick it up.
Let me start with public comment.
Is this a problem in Ferndale too?
And our Ferndale City Council just passed this.
Right.
If you had anything to do with it, thank you very much. Because there were several of us just talking with each other and just detesting this stuff. I'm the recycle lady in Ferndale, and so I'm saying that because it's in the middle of the driveway and it gets damp and people just throw the whole thing in the trash, instead of holding the thing over the recycle bin and at least letting the papers fall out if they aren't already too damp from having been on the driveway and back and forth. And several of us have just been really upset with this. And as your other public comment person was saying, just as you said, you know, how is this really going to happen? I don't know, but I think a whole lot of us need to contact the prime perpetrator, or at least the people they hire to throw these things, because it's littering. It's ugly, it's wasteful, and I'm delighted that you've got this presented here too. It just makes the whole neighborhood not look as good as it looked in 1920s.
Thank you.
Well,
One more.
I'm not against it. I'm not sure that it's really going to accomplish much. Because even though it's on the books, I'm not sure how you're going to really enforce it. I don't want to be, I mean, I think it's a great idea, although you can just put it in your recycling, but it wouldn't matter. They'll take care of the plastic. But my only question to the commission is, go ahead and pass it, but then you have to ask yourself, are we really going to be able to enforce this, and how we do? Because if I read it correctly, it's not the company delivering that's going to be in violation, but the person who supplied the materials. So if it's a free press, you're going to cite the free press? Are they going to?
Correct. You'd cite, yeah.
The publisher.
Yeah.
You would cite the publisher.
Okay.
So you do get a response. You do get a response.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worked successfally in other communities.
But if
so-
someone's subscribed to the free press, it's okay.
Yes.
It's just the.
I mean, that's
Unsubscribed.
not the kind of thing you're gonna get free.
Right.
But, you know,
I
there's
think
those
it's a
other
great
things.
idea. I'm not sure it's going to accomplish much.
I'm just not sure what we're doing here.
Yeah.
I think at this point, we're a solution looking
Well, the problem's
for a
definitely
problem
there.
here. I don't know.
I have gotten complaints from residents that wanted to make it stop, and we've told them that it was a free, First Amendment issue and that we didn't have any control over it, so when we saw the opportunity to address it, that it
There
was
was
something we
actually
should.
a First Amendment case on it probably about 3 years ago. And the court said you can regulate this way because this is not really stopping speech, you're just
I'm
controlling.
just telling them
litter.
where they got to put it. I know, but
Right.
on the other hand, you're telling you're practically inviting them into your living room, you know, up to the front door to put this thing in and put it in a mail slot and stuff like that.
I think at the end of the driveway, tends to sit there for a long
Yeah,
time.
it never gets picked
Yeah,
up.
it become
Never gets picked up.
unsightly, gets
Like she
run
said,
over
it
by the
gets wet
car,
and then nobody-
rained on. Yeah, it becomes totally unreadable,
Goes in the
whatever was in it.
snowplows.
Yeah, in the snowplow, whatever. And it's better, at least if it's on the porch or near the front door, the homeowner's likely to take it into the house as opposed to going to the end of the driveway where it's often not picked up, especially since it's something they didn't subscribe to or aren't asking for.
The
So-
ones that tend to do this, the publishers that do this, they throw them out the car window as they're driving down the street. You know, they're not paying somebody to walk up to the
No,
door.
right.
So,
How many complaints have we had?
Two since I've been here.
comments?
Yeah,
Commissioner
the
Jenks?
only thing I'm bothered with is in the ordinance title, materials to any premises. When I think of premises, I think of a building. So I wonder if it's property versus premises. In other words, you're talking about on the land. This sort of seems to be in conflict with the ordinance.
No, premises
Premises
is a global term.
Right.
It's
Okay.
defined as a lot, plot, or parcel
Oh, okay.
of
fine,
land,
fine.
including any structures, driveways.
All right.
Doesn't hurt, Jules.
Well, that's not why you pass ordinances.
Well, you have
So-
had some complaints, and it's nice to have the vehicle in the book if you need to use it.
I'm willing to listen to our city attorney.
Sometimes.
Since when?
Once
Are you
in a-
okay?
Once in a while.
Once again, this is just a first
I think
reading.
Claire hit the nail on the head. I just, okay, well, I mean, I see the good in it. I don't see the bad per se in it. I just see I don't like the idea of, well, I understand the purpose of it. You say that they won't do it if they have to go to all that trouble because of the time factor and the work factor involved in doing it. In other words, throwing it out a car window is much faster than walking up to a house and putting it on the door. All right. Reluctant.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll hear more about it next month.
That's right, you can call me during the month, Jules.
Item number 10 is, we need a motion to move into closed session following our regular agenda. This is in order to discuss written attorney-client privilege communication pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. This will require a roll call vote.
Okay, what we're gonna have to do is read all three of these into the record, the way they're stated in the agenda.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I move that we move into closed session at the conclusion of the items of business to discuss pending litigation, Finkelberg versus City of Huntington Woods, and Hanover versus City of Huntington Woods, and consideration of an attorney-client privilege communication.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Jenks?
Aye.
Pro Tem Rozell?
Aye.
Commissioner Olsman?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. City Manager's report?
I have nothing. It's a nice, quiet time of year.
Yay.
Are there any questions of the City Manager? Okay, with that, we'll temporarily,
Convene into closed session.
Will there be business at the end?
we
there
will,
may
we
be.
will be, there is a possibility that we will reconvene.